And now, coming to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the Ozark Mountains, it's Spooky Talk Show with Josh the Devil. And now, here he is, Josh the Devil.
No. Oh, where's my applause? Okay, it's playing it, but I can't hear it. Oh my gosh. Oh, hey everybody. Welcome to Spooky Talk Show. I'm your host, Josh. We got Wyatt over here on the Zoom call.
What's up?
I'm just gonna go ahead and say, yeah, I've got a chipped tooth on my front tooth, so I'm not gonna bother trying to talk like this and not use my teeth at all and blah blah blah. So it's there. Hopefully it won't be there next Sunday. We'll see. Wyatt, how are you?
I think you should keep it. I like it. I think it's kind of, I don't know, I think the ladies like that sort of thing. It looks like a street fight. Do you want to tell the story of how you got that, or do you want to make one up?
Well, I was in a street fight, and wait. But bump, there it is. Hopefully it played a rim shot there. I don't know. What is it? It's just like looping the rim shot? Is that what it's doing? What is it? Oh gosh. Guys, I don't know what's going on. My computer and system is it's
professional setup.
I'm waiting to look over, and any minute it's just sparking and on fire. No, I don't know what's going on. Everything was good, and we started the stream, and for some reason, even though the computer's on mute and it's not even supposed to be using its internal speakers, it's playing back some of the stuff. And I should be able to hear like the rim shot or the boos when I push the button. I'm not hearing them, but I'm seeing levels moving over there, so it's all right. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
It's fine.
It's good. It's fine.
Just like think of it as like an analogy of what our country is going through right now. It could always get better, but this is where we're at, and we have to deal with this and persevere, right?
Well, as long as nobody votes, as long as nobody votes me out of this position, I guess that's okay. That's gonna suck. Sorry, you've been voted out. You're no longer the host. We've got this guy. Like, what? What? No. Boo. Oh, man. All right. Well, you know what? We took a week off last week because we needed some much. We did 20 episodes, and we thought we better take a break, at least for 1 week. I'm sorry, Paul, our writer, was probably just pacing around his house with nothing to do. Jokes probably just falling out of his ass and nothing to do with them. So I apologize, Paul. I'm glad we could get back on the air this week and let you, get your thing done. We changed up our set a little bit, which really means I crammed everything into the corner and am now using about a third of the space. So, but it looks okay.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, looks good.
I think so. All right, so we got a really good show tonight. We got Chris Gersbeck from New York. He is a comedian and comedy show producer. He is the guy who set up the Tingler show with the Mads. If you watched our The Mads Are Back show with Frank and Trace, that was not last week, but week before. And if you watched the Tingler and you were like, hey, that worked, well, you have Chris to thank. And if you were one of the people who maybe watched the first Mads Are Back, the Glenn or Glenda, and you weren't particularly happy with the changes made for the Tingler, well, fear not, because Chris explains everything. There were changes made, but I saw that changes were made, and I assumed, well, clearly something went wrong the last time, and well, it's a way more interesting story than that. So if you had some beef, prepare to have your beef squashed. Is the squashed beef? I don't know.
Can we start a band called Beef Squash?
Beef squash or beef squash?
Yeah, like beef squash. Does that exist? Not beef squash, not like
Right,
like
right.
Indomitable snowman or whatever. But yeah, this is like beef squash.
Beef squash. That's probably not a thing. It's probably not. I take that back. Every time I say that, you run a search and there is some band. We'll let Aaron Sarlo figure that out, and he'll buy beefsquash.com if it's available, I'm sure, and just route it to Aaron Sarlo. That's what he's good at. We let him do it. If you go to I Love Sucking Dick, then that's where it goes, which is amazing that no one else had that URL, but what are you gonna do? So Wyatt, I guess this is our back to school episode. School started for most of the, this whole area this week, and it was terrifying. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on our back to school week?
Oh man, I don't know what to think about it anymore. Being a teacher and on the front lines of it and seeing it, there's moments where I feel totally fine, and there's moments where I'm like, oh, we're all going to die. They haven't figured out the lunch thing yet. I mean, come on, high school. How do you corral a bunch of high schoolers to keep their distance and their mask on when there's no real structure? I mean, in the class, it seems okay. But yeah, there's moments where it's like, oh God, just let me go. Just let me go. So yeah, there's no perfect solution. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Tell anybody about it.
Well, there we go.
How are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about it? You got the kids, right?
Yeah, I got. We're doing full virtual, which is, in my opinion, the way to go if it's available, and it was. So we've got 3 to 4 kids here every week, every day, running Zoom meetings. I keep getting notifications on my phone. It keeps going ding, and Comcast will send me a text message, an email, and then an actual alert from the Comcast app telling me that I'm at 128% of my data for this month or something. It's one of those things, and it just keeps telling me, like every percentage it keeps telling me, and I'm sure it's costing me a fortune. But they're safe, and they are seeing a good number of their friends are on the Zoom calls, which is really cool. They can't really talk to each other, but they're seeing kids that they maybe knew a couple years ago and haven't had a class with, that sort of thing. So. For the first week of school, it was an okay success, but I'm like most people, I'm just terrified for the teachers. I think the teachers have really got the short end of the straw, the short straw there. They raw end of the deal. I'm putting all my phrases together, because very little notice, like you said, no structure, supplies are limited. And then we're talking about essentially herding cats, and yeah, so that's not going to.
Teaching, and that's teaching on a good day.
Well,
and then you add potential death or at least long-term health effects. Yeah, it gets a little.
Someone throwing up. Call the janitor. He's got to sprinkle that stuff on the vomit. What is that? It's like sawdust or something. I don't know. Sorry.
Luckily, I've never had to use that. My first year of teaching, like probably in the first month, I had a kid vomit my room. And
wow.
Obviously, they didn't eat breakfast, or they had like a Mountain Dew for breakfast, because this girl, she just ejected the most yellow-green substance onto the floor, and all the kids and I just kind of stared at it. And I'm a brand new teacher going, I don't know what to do about this. What am I supposed to do is vomit on the floor? Yeah, so we went outside and I contacted an adult because I didn't feel I was like, I need an adult. What do you need?
We need a real adult.
I need someone with a mop and a bucket of that stuff. And then they looked in my room and they said, oh, you poor thing.
I think
it was nice. It was nice in that respect.
I think it was more important that they just call someone with an actual stomach. Can you call someone with a stomach who's not going to throw up as well and add to the collection there? Okay.
Everyone step around it. We're going outside.
Well, fortunately, there's comedy. There's comedy. We got comedy on our side. Chris is going to talk all about that tonight. And it's, at this point, it's literally all we have. It's all we have. We have jokes, and and they're not all great jokes, but we're going to keep making as many jokes as we can until something happens, until I have a reason to stop telling jokes and doing this. And I don't see that happening. All right, we could yap on and on and on, but let's get to some jokes here. Let me push that button and this button, and then, okay, here we go. We're gonna have to start with something sad, though. Actor Chadwick Boseman, famous for playing Jackie Robinson and Marvel's Black Panther, passed away last week at the age of 43. No one really understands how King T'Challa died before the Tiger King. I'm going to put in some boos. Too soon? Too soon? I didn't write that. That's always my get out of jail free card. I didn't write that joke. No, that's not. Oh, I love this picture. All right, Wyatt, I'm gonna have to move you. You're.
Block that view.
There we go.
That's a beautiful creature that the world needs to see. Get me out of the way.
There, I'll put you right there. Okay. A Florida woman, not this woman, just how could I not choose this picture when I typed in the Google search? Florida woman. She was arrested last week after she physically attacked her father because of relentless farting. It's nice to see Florida women catching up to those Florida men. That's equality. That's right. I'll put in some applause there. I'll push the fake laugh button. Japanese company Skydive Inc. has announced they've successfully tested a flying car with a person aboard. I guess that's a person. A spokesman for the company said he hopes the car will be available for purchase by 2023. If they pull it off, you can bet we won't be flying around with your gas light on for 2 days. Because I do that. I'm guilty of that. Honestly, they're just going to have to take into consideration how people view their gas gauges in their cars and adapt that to the gas gauge, to the fuel gauge in the flying car. Because if it's the same, if it works the same as your car, where you hit that E and you can kind of go below the slash, well, then I just think they're going to have to prepare for that. I think they're going to have to take that into consideration, the below the slash. They're going to have to assume that everybody's going to assume that. American car drivers, anyway. I don't know. Oh gosh. Anyway. Well, look at that thing. Are you getting in that, Wyatt? Would you get in one of those? I'm not.
I'm looking at a couple versions of you and like a lighting stand.
No.
Oh,
Can
wow.
you see it there? You see the little car? It's got like.
That's nice.
It's got like helicopter skis on it. I don't know.
Struts. I think they call those struts.
Struts. I just know it's that thing that like the action heroes grab onto. I don't.
Yep. You need that when you're trying to get away.
Yes, you do. In Mississippi, keep it together. In Mississippi, a dog caused more than $7,000 in damage after chewing a fiber optic cable that ran between two government buildings. I'm sorry, that's funny. I don't care who you are. Maybe the dog was just rioting on behalf of dogs euthanized in kill shelters. Seriously, go adopt a dog. Don't buy a dog. Go adopt a dog. Save a dog. Rescue a dog. Don't be a dick. Pay $2,000 for some inbred. All right, I'm gonna shut up. Sound like Bob Barker in reverse. All right. Oh, what else? Well, singer R. Kelly was attacked in a federal prison last week, according to his attorney. I'm trying not to laugh at you, R. Kelly. I really am. That interview with Gayle King, that's not the only time he can say he was fighting for his life. Oh, rim shot there. Oh. But, because I don't have any sympathy for R. Kelly. I mean, do you? I don't. No, that's acceptable, right? That's completely acceptable to make fun of R. Kelly as much as you want, I'm pretty sure. Finally, an Ecuador couple, 110 and 104 years old, that makes them having lived a combined 215 years, which makes them the oldest married couple according to the Guinness World Records. Family unity under the rules of love, mutual respect, honest work, and proper education based on family values. Those are the keys to a healthy coexistence, the couple said in a statement. Also, after a certain age, you just can't hear each other nag or fart relentlessly. Oh, calling back the fart joke.
That's how comedy works. You got to do it in circles. You set up the joke and then you bring back the joke.
Yeah, the callback.
It becomes funny.
I thought you meant fart jokes. That's how comedy works. And I mean, there are some people who would completely agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, then there's Hacksaw Jim Duggan for no other reason than there's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Paul, thanks for the jokes. And thanks for the joke with Hacksaw Jim Duggan because I just bringing him back every time I can. Okay, let me push that button and go back over here to our camera in the sky. I think I may have put that camera up too high. Way over here. Okay, we'll bring Wyatt back for.
Okay.
We'll bring you
I was
back.
trying to get in the shot. I was going. There I am. Okay, cool.
No, okay. Now put your hands on your head just put your hands on your head like this. Okay, yeah, and then just go ah. And see, can anybody see it? Anybody see that? No. Well, there's a poster above you, right above your head. There's a person who's doing that, and so I was having you match. It's okay. You'll see it later when we do the playback. Guys, we got a really good interview tonight, and I'm going to shut up and throw it to the interview because I can't stand looking at myself with the chipped tooth in the monitor there. So I'm going to take a sip from my gizmonic mug.
I think you look lovely, Josh. Don't let American standards of beauty bring you down.
Well, I mean, it's not. I'm not keeping it like a trademark mole or something or Henson skunk stripe. I sort of have a skunk stripe, but anyway, we're gonna throw it to this interview with Chris Gersbeck. Take it away, Josh. And oh crap, I forgot to put the button on the remote. Oh, I'm so smart. All right. Here we go. I think it's this one. Hey, Chris, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
I am, yeah. I can hear you fine.
All right. Oh, man. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Little Spooky Talk Show. And
thanks for having me.
Thanks for hooking us up with the interview with Frank and Trace. Because,
of course.
I mean, that's a lifelong dream for me right there. That's I got Servo on my arm, but I got Crow on my car. My license plate is CROOOOW, so no one is mistaking me for anything other than a Misty.
I thought they were going to say you have Crow in your heart.
Oh,
like
I do have Crow in my heart. And I have him in a box up there on a shelf waiting to be assembled, sadly. He's
nice.
Project for another day. Chris, thanks so much for being here. We've got a few things to talk about. Obviously, we're going to talk about Frank and Trace's project. The Mads are back because you're the guy behind the scenes helping make this thing happen. And if it wasn't for you, a lot of us would be just desperate for content right now. Yeah, Umbrella Academy Season 2 came out, and I went through that in a week, and now what am I supposed to do? But if I've got something on Eventbrite, I got something on my calendar, I can go buy a ticket for something, keeps my spirits up, and I know that I'm not the only person that feels that way. So from all of us, especially all of us Misties, thank you so much for making sure that the Tingler happened and that we will get more, that we're getting more shows from the Mads are back. So
sure,
on behalf of all of us, thank you so much.
Of course. The Tingler almost didn't happen very last minute, but we can talk about that later.
Okay. Yeah, we all got several emails there at the last minute.
Yes.
So I was gonna bring that up. No question there. Let's talk about you for a minute. Now, are you there in New York?
I am. Yeah, I'm in Queens. Lifelong New Yorker, a lifelong Queens resident. See, I've been here under quarantine with my wife since March. Made a couple ventures out of the city, but not much. So, but yeah, I've just been here the whole time. Yeah.
Well, that's good. What are things like there? I assume everything's still pretty quiet and shut down. Are you starting to get some stirs of life?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, things are starting to open back up. I live in Forest Hills, which is has a ton of restaurants. The block I live on is just all outdoor dining right now. Like they just close off the street on the weekends and just have seating. So yeah, things are starting to open back up, but it's crazy. There are some restaurants that we used to go to all the time that have just closed down because they, just can't keep up with the bills probably. And but things are starting to open back up. It doesn't feel like things are going to be back to normal in New York City anytime soon. I feel like we're probably the most cautious out of pretty much any other city in the country right now, but. I think Los Angeles, I think, opened back up and they kind of just immediately shut back down. So I think they're a little afraid of that happening here.
It's better to be err on the side of caution for sure.
I don't know if you can hear it, but the construction outside of my apartment building has not ceased. So if you hear banging, that's what that is.
Hey, if we hear some banging, all that means is that there are workers getting paid right now.
That's true.
To do their job. So, hey, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the comedy scene and your role in it there. Now, you're producing several shows, podcasts, and a couple of live shows. How did you get started in comedy in general, and then how did you kind of make that shift over to producer man?
So I lived in this neighborhood in Queens. It's called Astoria. That's it's another area of Queens that's very much known for their restaurants, and they have I think the largest Greek population outside of Athens or something. So it's like a very old school sort of community that's becoming more and more hip over the years. But I lived in Astoria for about 13 years or so, and like there was just not really, aside from restaurants and bars, there was just nothing to do in that neighborhood except for that. And then this place called QED opened up, which is it's more or less, or it was a comedy club, very small, very community oriented. It was opened up by Camber Cruz, who's an author and storyteller. And her husband is a stand-up comedian. He's Christian Finnegan.
Oh, yeah.
So I that place opened up, and I think the whole neighborhood was kind of like, whoa, like we didn't realize that we needed this so badly. And I didn't know this until they opened up in 2014, I think. But there's a ton of comedians that live in that neighborhood. So they kind of opened up, and it became like very quickly this hub for comedy. And I just started hanging out there more and more. Eventually started doing stand up there. And from there I did like stand up for like 3 years. And then I started really getting into producing, putting on my own stand up shows, my own variety shows. I did basically a live Mystery Science Theater 3000 there, where we would just show really bad movies, and we would try to pick more modern movies like like The Room and Birdemic, like the more modern classic shit movies.
Wow.
Sorry, can I curse on here? Or
absolutely.
Is that... Okay, cool. So then I was doing that, and then Frank Conniff actually he was one of the first shows I think got booked at QED. He had a show called Frank Conniff's Cartoon Dump.
Yeah. And
that was like he booked stand-up comics to do sets, and then in between he'd play these really, really shitty old cartoons that people sent him. And so I started helping him with the tech, like playing the cartoons in between stuff, and we got to know each other better. And then the more I started doing stuff like that, like helping other people make their shows happen, I just realized I just got a lot more satisfaction out of that than, bombing at open mics every night. So I was like, I love the art form of stand-up comedy. I think that there's a lot of things you can do and be involved in comedy and not feel like you don't have to like force yourself to do stand up every night. So I was just like, I really like producing. I like doing podcasts. I like just like helping people out. And so slowly I just kind of like stopped doing stand up, but like still was very active in the scene. And then I was just like, I just like producing. And, when the pandemic happened, I thought that all live entertainment was just going to be completely dead forever. And I mean,
Yeah, a lot of us did. Yeah, I thought that
there's
was it.
still, there's still that kind of fear that none of these places are going to reopen. But having like being able to still produce content for people and have it be live, like what we're doing with the Mads shows, it's just great. I mean, those shows have gotten people from all over the world that have never been able to see Frank and Trace do these live movie riffs, and now they can just turn on the computer and watch it.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. There were
yeah.
several times, and we've got here in Little Rock, we don't have an Alamo Draft House, but there are some relatively close by, and so there were a couple times where a friend of mine and I kind of maybe were thinking about, is that the microwave? I got a Hot Pocket in the microwave back there. No, one of my 3D printers just finished something.
Oh, nice.
It's been running for 16 hours or something, so there was no way to know when it was going to be done. I've lost track. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Let's talk about. I mean, you've moved into the production now. Mm-hmm. Do you miss stand up at all? Let's say, I mean, if when every place opens back up, and you have, because obviously now there's not much you can do, but once things open back up and there's open mic nights going again, mm-hmm. Is there any aspect of that you still miss?
Yeah, I mean, I don't miss performing myself necessarily, but I do miss the community aspect of it, and just hanging out at a place that I know I'm going to see my friends. It's kind of like a Cheers type of scenario. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this show and I'm going to run into like 20 people I know and we're going to have a good night. And I miss that aspect of it a lot. And also just the instant feedback of like, sitting in a room and someone's on stage telling jokes and just laughing with other people surrounding you is like, you kind of forget like how fun that is.
True.
And
yeah. I've lost your audio.
Sorry, I muted myself by accident. So I miss that aspect of just being around other people and enjoying it. I mean, it's great to be able to see shows that you never would have been able to see. And it's also great to be able to sit on your couch and watch this stuff. But
yes.
But yeah, I really do miss like just being around other people enjoying these things like as a community. And like I do think that's why a lot of people are saying like movie theaters are never going to come back, this is like the nail in the coffin for them, and I don't think that's true. Like I really love going to the movies because you get to experience that with a room full of strangers, and it's just like this 100%. It's just like this communal thing that's just so like missing right now. I do think that the Mads live streams has that aspect of it because we've been able to have like chats going on.
Let's go into now the first live stream for the Mads Are Back was Glenn or Glenda. Now did everything I missed Glenn or Glenda. I was out in the woods. But I noticed when the Tingler appeared, things were different. Yeah. It was, So changes were, large changes were obviously put into place. So yeah, it makes me wonder, what happened on that first one that made you guys all go, okay, well, we're going to have to come up with a different plan for next time. I didn't hear anything bad on the outside, so I have to assume it was more of just a pain in the butt on y'all's end or something like that. Can you give us a rundown of how that first one went?
Yeah, so the first one we did, Glenn or Glenda, and these movies that we've been picking are all public domain. So because once you start streaming stuff and getting licenses for things, it like really can cut into the budget and and the profit and everything. So
and going with an Ed Wood movie, that seems fairly safe.
That seems and like I mean there's also there's so many public domain movies that are hilarious and they're very easily accessible. But so we did Glenn or Glenda, and the way we do it tech wise is well, for that show, it was Frank, Trace, and me on a Zoom call, and then we just broadcast that stream to YouTube. And so we did the Glen or Glenda one, and it was great because everyone could just very easily get to YouTube.
Sure, watch it on
and
their
then
TV.
Beam it to their TV, yeah, whatever. And it was great, but that went off without a hitch. And then so the next movie was the Tingler, the Vincent Price movie, which is also in the public domain.
Right.
And we did we've been doing one tech rehearsal a couple weeks before the show, then a dress rehearsal the night before. So we did the tech rehearsal, streamed it to YouTube. Nothing, no copyright violations or anything.
Sure, yeah,
you do the dress rehearsal.
You wait for it to process, and it'll kind of run its little analysis on it and algorithms and such.
And nothing came up, so it didn't even occur to us like, oh, there's going to be an issue. Plus, we verified that it is in fact in the public domain. It's not like any weird like Columbia's coming after us or anything. Right. Well, at least. Anyway, so we did the tech rehearsal, went fine. Then we did the dress rehearsal, and these dress rehearsals we usually just invite like 10 or so people just to like kind of watch it and let us know how levels sound.
Yeah, sure.
And 10 minutes into the movie, YouTube just cut the stream.
Oh.
And we were like, oh shit. So we restarted it, sent out the new link to everyone, and then 5 minutes go by and they cut it again.
Oh, so not a fluke.
Yeah, so we were like, what could this be? And I got the email saying it was a copyright violation. I didn't even say that. It said something like it's spam or misleading to people or something. Okay. And so we appealed the decision, and they like within an hour, they were like, no, we stand by this.
Wow.
And then they also cut my YouTube channel from live streaming for 2 weeks, which, isn't that big a deal. We could have just done it on another YouTube channel, but then we're like, there were like close to 3,000 tickets sold. So
you don't want to take the chance.
It's like we can't have a stream just cut off 5 minutes because people will be really, really upset, understandably. Mm-hmm. So we're like, what else can we do here? We were like, maybe we can do it to Twitch, but then Twitch might have the same exact issue, and also
no way to know, no time.
Yeah, and I feel like Twitch is also not something that everyone is familiar with, like YouTube. So we were like, that might make it even harder for people because they're like, how do I even get on Twitch? So we're like, let's just invite everyone into the actual Zoom room with us. That way people can still chat, they can still watch it live. And it was like the last thing we wanted to do the day of the show was announced, like, hey, you got to watch this on Zoom now.
Right. Give people at least a little bit of a heads up notice.
Yeah.
I saw some complaints. I saw some people complaining, they were like, I don't understand. I watched, and of course they don't know any of the backstory, but they're like, I have a YouTube app on my TV, so I was just going to watch on my TV like last time. Now I have to watch it on my computer. The whole night is ruined, and it's like, oh, you're being a little bit dramatic there, buddy. You have a laptop, hook it to the TV. Come on. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing. It was like, for me, it's like that wouldn't be that big of an issue. I have just like an HDMI cable I can plug my laptop in, but I know a lot of people aren't like that, or people don't have laptops. They just have their phones or their iPads or whatever. So it's the last thing in the world that we wanted to do, but we knew we could still put on a live show, still make it available to rewatch and download after the fact. The show itself went great. Like everyone who was able to get into the Zoom room and have it working and everything was very happy with it.
That's amazing as it is. I've tried a little Zoom studio audience here. And I've had mixed results. So the fact that you guys were able to do that and pull it off, not only is that impressive, that gives me a lot of hope. Maybe I can put 20 people in our Zoom studio audience and have them watch and laugh at jokes. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, but we had to do it as a webinar because we didn't want. I don't even think you can do a regular Zoom meeting with more than 100 people active. So we had to do like the webinar format to make sure that everyone that bought a ticket could actually get into the room. But then, as a webinar, none of the audience they're not seen or heard on,
correct,
on screen. So, So yeah, I mean, it was obviously not the experience we wanted to provide, but it was, the show still went on, and
Yeah,
that was,
I think a lot more people would have been disappointed had it just been canceled or postponed or something like that.
Or we take a chance and then YouTube cuts the stream again.
5 minutes in. Yeah.
And we also didn't want to. We don't want to lay out like like an entire dissertation as to why we had to switch to Zoom. So anyone that emailed, we just told them like, yeah, it's YouTube algorithm issue that we can't resolve, and everyone very understanding. It's something I've learned is really great about the Misties is like how just sweet everyone is. I don't know how else to say it. Like everyone's just very, even like, and I was expecting some people to send emails like, what the fuck? And we got a couple of those, but then as soon as I responded, they were like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Like totally understand.
Well, Frank and Trace confirmed that they really had never had any run-ins with any over amorous fans or any fans that were going too far or made them uncomfortable. According to my calculations, that means that's really rare because it's
extremely rare.
I set up a booth at Comic-Cons and sell my wares, and so most of the time I sit and watch people from various fandoms, and I'll see celebrities at tables and things, and it's rare. It's rare for a fandom to just be that nice. So on that area, I think you do have kind of your work cut out for you. So, or you've got it. You got it easy. You got it easy there. Let's talk about the next show. Are we going to do anything different? Are we going Zoom again?
No, we're definitely doing YouTube. The movie is Walk the Dark Street, which I still haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's a new one for me. At least I was aware of the Tingler. I'm like, oh, Vincent Price, right. That's the one with the little shockers on the seats, and
Yeah.
But this one I don't know.
Yeah, they've done it live a couple times. I still haven't watched it because we're doing a tech rehearsal for that next week, so I'll see it then. But it's apparently really, really, really awful. And there's also just like absolutely no discrepancy of whether or not anyone owns the rights to this movie. Like it's complete. It's so we can do it to YouTube without. There's not going to be any algorithm.
Interesting. Okay.
Detecting the audio of this movie.
YouTube has never seen this. This is not footage it's going to be able to compare to anything else. It will have no idea.
So I'm excited about it. But the only thing is that the Tingler, especially the print that we use for the show, is like that movie looks great. Like it's very well lit. It's very well shot. It's, it was a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Walk the Street is not that at all. Like it looks horrible. Someone actually already sent me, I wish I remembered his name. It was a fan who just sent me like a cleaned up version of Walk the Dark Street to use because apparently every print that's out there looks absolutely horrible. So someone like went through and went through it and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit and made it brighter in certain spots.
That's great.
So that's the copy that we're going to show. But yeah, that's going to be YouTube is like the best situation. People can chat if they want to, or they can just make it full screen and not pay attention to the chat, which we found out a lot of people preferred that way during the Zoom show because you can either make the chat inactive or you can have it on and then notifications pop up every few seconds.
Okay, yeah.
And a lot of people were like, before the movie started, they're like, turn off the chat, it's too distracting. So I really didn't want to because that was such a fun thing of the first show, is just being able to see people's comments in real time with the movie. We'll have that. Yeah. We'll have that back for Walk the Dark Street. So
good. Misties like to chat along. If you've ever watched any of the YouTube Turkey Day marathons, those YouTube chat logs are great.
Yeah.
It's just full of callbacks and one-liners, and I mean we're talking about just non-stop comments for a static screen that says, stream's going to start soon, and it's just hundreds of people chatting that all have things in common. It is a wonderful community. I always go in and I say, Chief, and then I wait for 30 people to reply McLeod, and it's just a fun thing that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man-
And I mean, I think like, you know, like riff tracks I know did like the Fathom events type of things, but you know, you can't like sit on your phone and chat with other people during those kinds of things in a movie theater. So it's
Right.
I feel like this is, and I don't know for sure if this kind of live stream thing, live riff has really been pulled off before, but a lot of people told us that this is like the first time that they're able to actually like experience this kind of real time live riff and chatting at this, you know, and everything. So it's
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah, the Fathom events were pretty good. I was fortunate enough to go to the Belcourt Theater in Nashville and see I was front row for Space Mutiny, and there's nothing better than the live guys right there in front of you,
Yeah.
holding microphones, riffing it out. But I got to say, the next best thing is anything we can do on the computer that's still live and has any element of interactiveness, then
Yes.
interactivity, then that's it. That's what we want.
Yeah.
And I mean, we use that on our show here. The chat people are always telling us, hey, your microphone's too low, or the sound effects are
Yeah.
too loud.
Yeah.
People are always, you know, I'll make a comment about something. I go, what was that movie with, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme? Oh, I don't remember. And then I'll keep going, and someone will say it in the chat. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it was Cyborg. That's right, it was Cyborg. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it adds a really good element in there, especially when, you know, you've got two guys like Frank and Trace that can command 300 people in you know, and keep them entertained while watching a terrible movie. That is
Yeah.
that is quite a feat.
I mean, it's really like you know, as much as I love stand-up comedy, like live sketch comedy, any kind of live comedy, you know, when I started producing, we called the shows were called Movies Are Dumb. That was like our version of.
Did you use an R? Was it Movies Are Dumb?
Yeah, Movies Are Dumb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good man.
So, but we'd have, you know, Frank lives in New York City too, and as long as he wasn't on one of these road dates, he would always come in and do the live riffs. And it's just, I realized very quickly, and you know, I've been a fan of Mystery Science Theater since I was a kid, but like that humor of just like making fun of stuff, but like you know, just as it's happening, just watching people being so like quick-witted, and like that makes me laugh harder than any stand-up comedy or sketch comedy or anything. Like
it's not no prepared bits. That's just
it's just like the absolute funniest thing to me. So I always loved producing those shows. I mean, it's just especially getting to watch Frank work. Because you know, with the Mad shows, they do write out a lot of jokes. There's a good deal of ad-libbing during the actual show, but they do write a lot of the stuff. But
Sure.
but watching Frank work in real time and just saying these jokes off the top of his head, like he's just so sharp, and he's just one of the funniest guys on the planet. So it's just like it's like such an honor to get to like share any kind of space with him, really.
I was honored that he came on the show.
Yeah.
Man, let's talk about we got to talk about you got a couple of podcasts that you add your stank to. We've got Great Hang with Derek Humphrey, and we've got the Goddamn Dave Hill Show. So whoops, okay, there's the camera. So pick one of those and tell us what in the hell that show's about and why we should be listening to it.
Well, Great Hang with Derek Humphrey. Derek's just a really good friend of mine. He's another stand-up comic here in New York City, and he's just one of these, like, he just says what he thinks, and he's very, very outspoken about his opinions, and there's nothing like, you know, nothing that is like, oh my God, like what's up with this guy? But he's very open to like hearing other people's opinions, so it's very easy for me to be like, no, you're wrong about this, and this is why. And you know, he and I chat with each other just all day, every day. And so a few months ago, we were under lockdown, and he was just like, hey, why don't we just do this once a week on YouTube, and we'll just basically bullshit for an hour. So we started doing that, and it's been really fun. He recently just started putting up it as a podcast too, so you can just listen to it if you want. But it's basically just the two of us just talking about anything anything that we feel like talking about. So that show's really fun. And then the goddamn Dave Hill show is actually it's a live version of the radio show that Dave used to do on WFMU, which is like this it's big radio station, independent radio station in New Jersey. I'd been working with Dave on his other podcast, Dave Hill's Podcasting Incident. I've been working on that for like past couple of years as producer and co-host, and we were doing that show weekly still, and that's more or less just him sitting down with someone and just like an interview show. But then once we started doing these live streams of the goddamn Dave Hill show, it was essentially the same show. It was just live.
Okay.
But people seem way more engaged with that than they did just the other podcasts. Or like, let's just combine the two and just call it one thing. So we're actually still in the process of like sort of rebranding it, but it's just Dave's such a hilarious comedian. He's got a very, very, again, very friendly, very sweet fan base that come to every single one of those live streams, and the chat is always just, it's like you're just hanging out with a group of friends. And and he knows so many people. He's able to get he got like Chili from TLC on the podcast a couple months ago. Nice. He's like he's good friends with Malcolm Gladwell. He's got like this whole, he's got this whole like this other world. I mean, he's not super well known or anything, but he knows like everybody. So
that's what matters, having the connections.
Yeah.
The only connection I have is a Twitter account where I yell into the void and go, hey, does anybody want to come on our show? You right there. You've got 7 followers. Come on our show. Talk about your what is it that you do? You're never mind. That's what we do. Well, we've been really lucky. You're one of the guys that helped us out because,
of course,
and it snowballed very quickly. I tweeted it at Frank, and Frank was like, "Yeah, okay, talk to Chris." And Chris was like, "I'm here. Someone say my name." And I'm like, "Hey, Chris, do you?" You were like, "Yeah."
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's I always appreciate when people are like that with me. Frank being one of those people, and Dave Hill as well. Like before I met either of them, I sent them a couple emails just like a fan, and like they just would write back like within an hour. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like they're just they're very humble about that kind of stuff.
Well, that's a good segue. I had a very similar experience where I sent a message on Facebook and not expecting to get a reply to one of my favorite actors from one of my favorite MTV classics, The State, which no one outside of my generation remembers at all, but has every actor in it. And I tweeted at Kevin, or I sent a message to Kevin Allison. I said, Kevin, I love reading your Facebook posts. I love seeing the pictures of your cat. I've enjoyed your work for years. You always bring a smile to my face. Just wanted to say thanks. And he immediately messaged me back. And he was like, thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say. And so you are also in behind the scenes with Kevin's show. Kevin has a really neat show, which is all based around him finding these amazing storytellers who have these really amazing experiences. And he seems to have a knack for kind of just like finding and sifting and sorting and then picking this amazing person to sit down and tell a story. And he's got live virtual shows that we can buy tickets for. Can you give us a quick rundown of that show?
Sure. That's so it's the Risk podcast.
Risk with an exclamation point.
With an exclamation point, yeah. He started doing that show, I think, in 2009. Yeah, they just celebrated 10 years back in October. But the State was obviously like this big, well, kind of like very underground cult following, and everyone involved in that show has since become, super famous and directing movies and everything. And I think Kevin's career after The State ended wasn't as like he didn't do as much acting, I don't think, after that. He was doing he was still doing like characters on comedy shows and stuff, but I think he hit like a low point, and Michael Ian Black basically told him, is like, it's much more interesting when you just talk about your real life and like the things you get into, because Kevin's if you've listened to Risk at all, he's a very interesting guy, and he's very, he's involved in all these communities that I've just never even heard of until I really started listening to the podcast. But yeah, I mean, the podcast has since become like, it's just like it's a staple of the New York City comedy world and storytelling world. And the whole idea is you tell these stories that you really would never ever think you would ever tell to a room full of people. Yeah. And that's the motivation behind it. It's like, you're not going to hear these stories on This American Life because people would be way too embarrassed to tell them. So it's these people taking a risk and just putting themselves out there and telling these stories. And a lot of them are really, really just absolutely hilarious. And then they also have these really moving, heartbreaking stories, or just really disgusting stories, but like presented in this way where you really sympathize with the storytellers. And it's just it's such a great show. And Kevin was they were doing monthly shows in New York and LA. They have someone else host the LA version. David Crabb is his name. But Kevin would also tour 3-4 times a month around the country and do these live dates in different cities. And when once COVID happened, it was like, I think Kevin was in Las Vegas for a show on March 13th or something. And then he was worried he's going to get stuck, because then that show did not happen. Everything shut down that day. Yeah. And so he was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get back to New York City. But he was able to make it back. And it was just like, we had a Zoom call that following Monday. It's like, how do we do this? Can we figure out a way to do this online? And like everyone else, we just tried to become Zoom experts, within a couple weeks or something. Yep. And I put all of, that success falls squarely on JC Cassis, who's the show's producer, who really, she figured out how to do this show and do it seamlessly and have it still be really entertaining. And I think it was only like a few weeks after, it was probably the end of March or beginning of April, they did the first live stream over Zoom, and it was like 400 people came to watch. We had it was another one of those Zoom webinar type things, so everyone was actually in the Zoom room with us, and people just loved it. It got featured in the New York Times like right after that. Forbes did a big piece on it. It was like, is this the future of live entertainment? Nice. Or like, how can you still make money in the age of coronavirus? It was so so I was like really, really excited and proud to be a part of that. Also, I mean, just being a fan of The State for so long, and then getting to work with Kevin in the first place was really exciting for me. But yeah, getting to work with him on these live streams just made us all like, really come together as a team and
I love it.
Try to still entertain people. But that, yeah, I mean, that led to, if it wasn't for that, the State did this big Zoom reunion a couple months ago. Yeah. And I don't think that they've reunited a couple times at these festivals in the past 10 years or so.
Nothing that was really well done in public that we could all enjoy.
Exactly, yeah. And it was like one of the first things that JC, the producer of Risk, had mentioned, like we should just try to put a State reunion together. And I thought she meant like just have everyone on the State come on Risk or something. And then like it's like a couple months went by, I didn't hear anything, and then I get an email from her. It's like, hey, the State's doing a reunion. Can you help us like put it together? And I'm like, yeah, I'll clear my cat. We had like 3 or 4 days to put that whole thing together.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
Man, I want to talk all day. We're about out of time.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of the Zoom reunion ideas as well, and of course, I had to mention the idea to both Jay Elvis and Frank and Trace when they came on. I said, hey, I think I don't want to be the official Misty spokesperson or anything, but I think it's safe to say that most of us would love a nice big Zoom reunion with the Misty crew, in particular because I've noticed that the Misties care just as much about the people behind the scenes as the actual cast members and the writers, not just, we're talking Paul. We want to see Paul. We want to see Bees. We want to see Jeff Maynard, Toolmaster. We want to see them all, and so that's the seed I've been trying to plant. Is we want to see that massive Zoom call with and if we want to start, with kind of the early, we kind of go chronologically. That's fine, but yeah. I want to hear those stories. So when I heard that the state was going to do that, yeah, I was very excited because most of those people, we all know what they're doing. We've seen their movies or we've seen them in TV shows, but there's a couple people that, we don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Todd Hollebeck.
Todd, in particular, he's the original. Yeah. He's the state. He's the original founding member, and he seemingly has dropped off the face of the earth as far as, some. Yeah, guy
I think he works as like a designer now, and I think he was like the hardest because of the time difference. I think he had to wake up at like something like 6 a.m. to do that reunion or something like that. I don't know what the time difference is exactly, but he was up at some weird hour doing that.
Well, we appreciated it.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think that Ben Garant was the only one that couldn't make it because he was like camping in some park or something. So, but yeah, Michael Patrick Jan put that. He was the driving force behind that whole thing.
Okay.
So, he sort of spearheaded it, and it was either like they had to plan it and do it in 2 months from then, or do it like that week. And they're like, it was pretty shortly after the George Floyd protests started getting really, just like they were just everywhere. Yeah. And they really wanted to do something to help. And they raised a ton. I think they raised like close to like $90,000 with that one show for the NAACP. So
we all wanted to see it. So
yeah. So it was they did a great thing, and it was so much fun to just be, as a fan, just sit there and watch these guys do these sketches that I've watched a million times. I was just sitting on my couch like clapping the entire time.
That's my only complaint with Josh Gad's show is that people will read maybe 1-2 lines and then that's about it. Yeah. And there's a lot of us that maybe have felt like I've watched that episode. I've watched those shows 1,000 times. I know every single sketch. Those are not the lines you should have them read, or at least give us more. So with the state, it was really nice to see, it was nice to see a lot more content of them and characters that we hadn't seen. No one in Josh Gad's show does any character work. They're just reading lines off the page. I'm sorry, that's not what we want. We want Louis saying his catchphrase the way he says his catchphrase, and we're not going to settle for anything less. And
I haven't watched any of the Josh Gad
episodes. They're fine. They're fine. I'm not trying to badmouth anybody.
I've seen like clips here and there, but I haven't actually watched a full.
The fact that he got Dick Donner on a Zoom call is impressive, no matter how you slice it. So
what was that? That was a Superman reunion or
Goonies.
Oh, Goonies, right. Yeah.
And and it was great. It was good. I got, but like I said, everybody's just kind of going, "Oh, you want us to read? Okay, that's, why'd you hit me? Where's your brain? Why'd you hit me? Where's your brain?" It's.
Yeah, I did see. I just watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World for the first time last night.
I saw that you just watched that.
Yeah,
that was very surprising.
It's one of those think like I love Edgar Wright. Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are like, probably two of my favorite comedies. And that movie came out, and I think like everyone else, like it just wasn't marketed correctly, and always heard throughout the years that it was like super funny and I needed to watch, and finally watched it last night and absolutely loved it. And then found out they just did like a table read reunion where they read the entire movie over Zoom. So
that's true.
Started playing that today. I was like, can I watch this whole thing like the day after seeing it?
There's a lot of Scott Pilgrim talk in the wind. I saw an article that said you essentially couldn't make the film now, that all of the landmarks are gone. All the ones that were mentioned in the comics, they're all gone, so you essentially couldn't even shoot it now. You'd have to build everything essentially. Kieran Culkin, one of the best performances. I mean, he steals every scene that he's in. It's great, unfair to the other actors, I thought. Now I could sit here and hash out various scenes and thoughts behind every scene from Scott Pilgrim, but we're not going to do that.
Okay. Next time.
Next time we're going to do that. Okay, Chris, thank you again so much for being on the show and helping us wrangle in Frank and Trace. Man, please stay safe. Stay there behind the scenes, making sure that these shows are going on as planned. And I think a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that the next Mad Show is going to be on YouTube. So it's going to be a lot. All those people who were concerned. Although I'm going to admit, I'm going to be that guy watching, with a timer going, well, let's see if it cuts off. I hope it doesn't, but I'm going to be that guy going, let's, because I trust YouTube as far as I can throw YouTube.
It'll be okay. We always have a backup plan just in case everything goes to shit. Like,
good.
Even if all the power of my building goes out, we could still do the show. So.
Okay, that's excellent to hear.
We know how important these shows are. I mean, they're important for us too. Like as a fan, like I would be so aggravated if I tuned in and a stream just cut off. So we like do everything to make sure that that it's a fun show, seamless experience for everyone.
All right, man, I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Keep up the good work. We will keep buying tickets and watching the shows, and you keep churning them out. Give my best to everyone involved in all of these shows, and let them know that the little guys down here are loving it. And if we don't have that little thing on our calendar, to look forward to in September, then why am I even waking up today?
Yeah.
What's the point?
September, next show is September 15th at 8 p.m.
So I'm good. So I'm good for at least a couple more weeks. So as long as you guys can keep going, then we'll keep living. We'll keep having a reason to get out of bed, and I'll keep doing my show too, I guess. So Chris, thanks so much for coming, and you stay safe there in New York, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, hey, let me push that applause button. No, it didn't work. Oh, there's some. Ha 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 ha. Everything's working so good here at Spooky Talk Show, just as normal. You guys, there we go. Chris Gersbeck. You can check out all of his projects at Dumb Industries. I think it's dumbindustries.com. But if you search Dumb Industries, I'm sure you're going to find it. And you can check out the Mads are back with their new movie coming out. What did he say? September 15th or something? It's going to be really good. Frank said it's one of the worst movies he's seen. And if you watched our Frank and Trace episode, then you know he's seen a lot of bad movies. So if he said that, then it must really mean something. Next week, cross your fingers, you guys, because we're hoping that we're going to be joined by our friend Casey Orr. Now, Casey's spending most of his time right now doing his amazing artwork. If you used to watch when we were back in the old spooky cabin, you probably saw some of his artwork hanging up in the background, and I guess I've got to swap out some art back here and get some up before next week, because hopefully we're going to have him on the show. Now, you also might know Casey of his other job. He's also a musician, and of course he's a bass player. I'm a bass player, so I have a habit of booking bass players. We don't get a lot of invites. People don't give the bass player a lot of nods. So Casey Orr plays bass in a few bands you might have heard of. Speed Dealer for one, Rigor Mortis for two, and what's that other one? Oh yes, Gwar. That's right. So stay tuned next week. Hopefully Casey will be with us and give us all kinds of fun stories. I got a feeling he's got a spooky story or two. Hopefully there won't be any blood all over the webcam. I think we'll be safe. Maybe I'll get some blood and just dump it on myself for old time's sake. But that's hopefully coming up next week. Cross your fingers, guys, and we'll nail that interview down. We've gotten so many responses from people. I don't want to mention anyone else's names because everything else is up in the air a little bit, and I hate to just jinx anything. Hopefully I didn't just jinx Casey Orr. What am I talking about? Josh, you're stupid. Okay, anyway. So we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully with Casey Orr. I'm going to push this button. And, yeah, piss off.